Welcome to Get Rich, the podcast that helps you do just that. Get rich and stay rich. Hey, I'm Briony Benjamin. I'm the founder of Ladies Finance Club, one of Australia's largest financial education platforms for women. But before I started helping thousands of women take control with their money, I was a hot financial mess when it came to my own finances. And not the fun kind of hot, more like crying in a supermarket wondering where all my money went kind of hot. But here's the thing, if I can go from financial mess to owning a share portfolio, investing in property and building wealth, then you can too. My mission is simple, to make women rich. Because when we have financial freedom, we have choices, confidence, and control over our future. Every week on Get Rich, I sit down with some of the best experts in the industry to break down how we can all start investing, growing our money, and creating long-term financial security without the jargon, boring bits, or overwhelm. Because when women get rich, we don't just change our lives, we change the world. So if you're ready to start making some smart money moves, hit that subscribe button and let's get rich together. Hey everyone, Briony Benjamin here. I'm Molly's sister and I'm filling in for her on the podcast while she's on maternity leave. Now, if you are looking to buy a house or an investment property anytime soon, then you need to listen to today's talk. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of property with Jade Fitzgerald from Ideal Buyers Agency. She's a Brisbane-based buyer's agent who help women navigate the property market with confidence. In this episode, we unpack what a buyer's agent actually does, how they differ from real estate agents, and who can benefit from having one in their corner. Jade also shares some of the biggest mistakes buyers make, what different budgets can realistically buy right now, and the key thing to look out for before you commit to a property. Jade's mission is helping more women, especially single women, get onto the property ladder and build long-term financial security. So let's jump in. Okay, so Jade, we'll get straight into it. What actually is a buyer's agent for those that aren't aware, and how are you different to a real estate agent?
Okay, first and foremost, I guess the difference between us is a selling agent is representing the seller, the vendor in the property only. And then number one objective is obviously if you're selling a property to make as much money as possible. So that's their entire role and their job. Our job is on the flip side, the opposite side, supporting you, the buyer, through the process. So I think what people forget a lot of the times is that selling agents are masters at negotiations. They do it all day, every day. They are negotiating with their clients. They are negotiating with you, the buyer. So this is their full-time job, is negotiation. The big thing that we do on this side of our fence is also negotiation. And so we're like flipping the script back on them more than anything and allowing you to feel really confident as a buyer that you've got someone who does this every day in their day-to-day job representing you in the marketplace. That's the best way I can describe the differences between us.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I suppose who needs one? Is this just a thing for first-time buyers, or if you're just an investor, who needs a buyer's agent?
Look, there's a lot of people that are totally property savvy and they have the time and effort to go and deep dive into all the data. And there's a whole bunch of different buyers that are out there, right? So we've got, as you've already mentioned, we've got investors, we've got mums and dads looking for their family home. We've got our beautiful first home buyers that I absolutely gorgeously adore. And then we also generally have our beautiful women who are entering the property ladder as well. And generally they're doing what we call rent vesting. So there's a really big, broad cross-section of buyers. I personally think everyone needs a buyer's agent, obviously. But mostly it's because I think people, you go out and you get your mortgage and you get your loan approved and that's amazing and it's a massive step unto itself. But then having this thing where you're thrown out to the wolves and everyone being expected to know all of the ins and outs of the intricacies of property, whether it's buying for your home and in a location that you know, or whether it's investing and it potentially is in a state that you know nothing about, having someone on your team who does this for a living. So I buy a house all day, every day. That's what I do. I'm in the market all day, every day. It's not just a Saturday. And sort of not just a one-time thing. I've bought hundreds and hundreds of properties. So I think anyone who really wants to have the support crew behind them to assist them through the process, they're the ones that should reach out. What we tend to find is, unfortunately, people get buyer's fatigue, particularly in today's environment. It's so exciting. People have got a loan. It's epic. You can go out and you can buy yourself a new home, and pretty soon you hit the ground and you're like, oh, okay, it's this expensive for this area, or I can only get this now. And a lot of what we do is sort of psychologically helping people through the process as well, talking them up when they need to be talked up, helping them, holding their hand and making sure that the information that they're going out with, they know that A, we can physically afford to buy that property. B, there's nothing wrong with it. We've done all the due diligences that we can in the background. And C, that we're actually explaining the process as we go through it, because there's actually quite a lot to buying a home that comes in the back end as well. And it's not just the negotiating.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, my partner and I bought our first home 2 years ago, and exactly as you describe, it's overwhelming. You're not an expert in property. It's the first time you've really deeply thought about it. Definitely could have benefited from some Jade in our corner for all of the reasons you mentioned. But that's really interesting. And so, because, I imagine there are people out there thinking, I'm handy on domain, and why don't I just search for myself? So I'm interested to understand a bit about the fee and then how you justify that fee. So like you said, there is so much that's unknown that you don't know. How does that work?
So we have a couple of different fee structures in place, and we also have a Lady Finance Club discount that we apply for anyone who comes through from Lady Finance Club as well. But we've got a couple of really good fee structures, particularly for first home buyers, for instance, as well. So if you're buying your own place, for instance, and you've got a little budget and we can go and buy an apartment or something like that, generally speaking, we've got a fixed fee for all of our pricing structures anyway. So there's no ambiguity in there. There's no you not knowing what you're going to pay or getting some big bill at the end. It's very clear and pointed out for you as we go through the process. And generally, we've got everything from, we like to call it your support pit crew team behind you. So you go out and do the majority of the work. We do in the background make sure that the pricing's all correct, you can actually afford it, making sure that we run all the due diligence checks for you, do all the negotiating and hold your hand all the way through to settlement. But essentially you're out doing the pavement pounding and going and looking at the properties yourselves, right up into like a full concierge service, which, I've got a couple of clients on the books at the moment and they're in the $2.5 to $3 million range, and we do all of the work for them. We go and investigate properties for them. We don't generally take them through anything until they've gone through all the pictures and photos we've sent them and there is interest there for them. They're generally very busy professionals that don't have time or the energy or the inclination to go and look at stuff that's not ticking enough of the boxes for them. And then we've got the people in between. That's a nice hybrid. We have some investors that'll come on board. Like I've got an amazing woman from Lady Finance Club at the moment, for instance. So we started talking with her 2.5 years ago. Molly and I did a online how to buy a house for under $500,000. She reached out from there. She's been talking with mortgage brokers since then. She's gone and saved up her deposit in this time frame, and we're only just starting to hit the ground looking for her now. And she's got a budget of $450,000. So we've had to talk through, she's in New South Wales, her potentially never seeing this property in her lifetime. But we're going to buy her a cracker. It's going to start building wealth for her. And she's one of our classic rent-vestors out in the marketplace. So we've got a really big cross-section of different types of clients, different fee structures that come with those. And it comes back to, the level of service that we're giving in from our end. What we tend to find is that most of our clients, well, in fact, all of our clients, in the time frame that they have us on board, our turnaround time's about 21 days from sign up to purchase. So even within that time frame, the property prices and property values have gone up more than what our fee structure is. So we are a very approachable fee structure in the marketplace. There are buyers agents out there that charge $20,000, $25,000. We are nowhere close to that. We would prefer to try and help people get on the property market and get them to that point rather than it being a roadblock for only the rich being able to afford.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that's such a wonderful example you gave there, Jade, of that Ladies Finance Club member, because I know it was actually Molly herself was doing that webinar with you and had a big epiphany moment herself as well, where she went, hang on, I'm waiting to meet a partner and do that together. She's like, oh, I could actually do this by myself now and I should,
Yeah.
And so hearing that story of actually you don't need to be looking at a $1.5 million home, a $2 million home. There are other options out there for you to get into the market by yourself is really
100%.
empowering.
Yeah, it's super empowering and we love doing it, right? It's not easy. I'm not going to profess that it is easy. It is looking at all different types of states and all different types of areas. At the moment I'm talking through with her on even that some of these properties is going to have asbestos in them and that she has to be comfortable with that, which is fine, by the way, as long as you don't go renovating it yourself. But yeah, so there's lots of different things that you kind of got to cover off with it. But I think that there is this bit of a mindset, particularly with women, that we've got to be perfect at all times and know exactly where we need to be. And then we've got to educate ourselves on it and we have to know everything about it while we do that. I mean, I know I'm similar myself the same way and I feel like I need to know everything and I've now got to releasing things even in my own business. I need a social media marketing person. I need all these things. I don't need to be the absolute advocate for everything in my business. There are other professionals out there to do it. And when you're talking about this sort of sums of money, I mean, we're really buying anything under $500,000 now is the challenge. So you're looking at a huge amount of money and a huge investment in your future, and you want to make sure that the decisions that are being made are the right decisions.
Absolutely. And that example you gave where, this may be a house that she's never going to see or visit necessarily. I mean, how daunting would that be purchasing that by yourself without the help? So I can definitely see massive value that you bring to the table there to help people get into the market in those price points, but not somewhere where they maybe even have a chance to go and check it out themselves. So on that note, Jade, if we're talking a $700,000 budget, what does that actually buy today in Australia?
Look, it's an interesting budget, that price point. It was our entry level, and before the first home buyers scheme changed, that was a cap for most people as well. So now the cap is sitting at $1 million. So you've got this new kind of environment currently where that price point is highly competitive for investors, but you can still buy a very decent home, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, brick on a block of land, depending on where we're looking. And you can also buy really amazing and fantastic apartments still. The apartment market in Brisbane in particular is very, very good, and it has been booming for some time. It's been a bit of a sleeping secret and a sleeping giant. I moved up here from Sydney during COVID, and especially when I was first getting into buyer's agency, and I was working for another company at the time, and I was going around looking at all these apartments going, what do you mean this is under $500,000 and it's 2 bedrooms and got views and, all these sorts of things? It has moved in that time frame, but there is a heap of different property out there available. Townhouses are also a great investment. They have grown at the same growth rate as houses in Brisbane. So when you're looking from an investment standpoint and you're looking at a city that's about to host the Olympics as well, these are amazing investments.
Yeah, and the home of Bluey. So what more could you want in Brizzy? But
100%. Yeah. Bluey has a very expensive house, though. No one wants to be buying a Queenslander unless you really, really want a Queenslander. They're a lot of work.
Absolutely. And Jade, so in terms of that location, I'm interested in your take. Is it better to buy in a capital city fringe or go regional at that price point? Obviously this is when you're not wanting to live in it and it's for an investment property.
Yeah, look, it all comes down to budget, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, and I don't know if you would have seen the news recently, but, Brisbane's now one of the most expensive markets to crack into. The median house price entry level is 1.1. Sydney's still sitting around that 1.1 to 1.2. Melbourne, yes, there's some entry level there that you can get into, but in regards to sort of capital city living, and it is another thing that I sort of have to talk people through a lot, it's kind of irrelevant these days. We've got a lot of people working from home. Being in the centre of the city and being in a hub of a CBD is almost a moot point now. And so what we're wanting to do is make sure that we're buying in an environment that's going to see ongoing growth. So what's driving growth in an area is what's going to see your property value price increase. Victoria is a bit of of a prime example. There's some spots in Victoria, in Melbourne, right in the middle of the city that have no movement whatsoever. Sydney, Homebush, another classic example. No movement in the apartments there at all. Whereas you can move a couple of suburbs over and they go gangbusters. It's an interesting thing, and it's a state by state, city by city. It's really, like, as I say, clients come to you living in the middle of the city. Unless it's absolutely necessary, we generally tell people to start looking out and around. You're going to get better bang for your buck. You're going to get more growth with your property. And if growth and long-term wealth is the objective, generally looking regionally, not remotely, but regionally, and following government spending. There's a lot of data-backed resources that we use as to why we're buying in certain areas and what's going to continue to see that ongoing employment drivers, all of those sorts of things. And once you start breaking those down, that's where you start seeing where the actual real opportunities are. For me, I follow government spending. Wherever the government's spending money regionally, so following things like renewable energies, hospital upgrades, roads, those sorts of things. Renewable energies and hospital upgrades are a classic example because there's so much that comes with them. More shops, more schools, more everything, and it will only ever continue to grow. So they're the main things that you want to look at when you're out there shopping. But every single client's completely different and every single property is completely different. So there's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, gosh. And once again, so many factors to consider that if you're not an expert in this field, that feels quite daunting. So I'm already like, yeah, if I'm ever in this world, I know who to call. So Jade, on that note, what are some of the biggest, most common mistakes you see people make when they buy a property?
Yeah, look, it's really hard to watch and look at. So it's a couple of big ones. Not making sure that your contract is subject to two important clauses, one being your finance clause and one being a building and pest inspection on the property. There are a lot of agents out there that will try and push for an unconditional contract or, the property's fine, don't worry about it, you don't need a building inspection. Or even recently we've seen in the market agents asking buyers for their pre-approval documentation. And, it's amazing how quickly the price actually gets to the full amount of the pre-approval. It's not ethical for them to ask from that for you. But again, their job, they're not working for you, the buyer. They are working for the seller. So whatever way they can get the best price possible, it's fair game. And I think there's just this bit of a misconception out there that the agent's looking after me. And don't get me wrong, there are some lovely humans that are agents, many, but there are a few. And, their job is to get the most they get paid also from whatever the money is that they make for the property. They earn a percentage from it. So there's a couple of pitfalls there. Number one for me is making sure that you have two very important clauses. Your finance clause, because although you've already got your pre-approval in place, that doesn't mean that the bank is happy for you to buy this specific property that we're going to look at. They do things once you've signed your contract, like they do a valuation on the property, which is done by an independent source. And so it's to make sure that we haven't overpaid for the property for a start, and that they're going to loan you that exact amount of money that we're going to pay for the property. The second one, obviously, is a building and pest inspection. Absolutely vital, crucial. Don't buy anything without it, and don't get railroaded by agents at any stage to not get one. Down in Tassie, there's no pests, but there's still building things that come through. In Queensland and New South Wales, we do have pests. We have termites. We have them in Victoria too, but you and I could walk through the property together and we'd go, oh, it's amazing, but I'm not a builder. You're not a builder. We're not going to go and crawl up in the roof. We're not going to go crawl under the house. And that's where a lot of these things get found. You want to make sure that the building inspector that you engage has the latest technology, can do water readings in walls, all of those sorts of things, because that $600 or $700 you're going to spend on a building and pest inspector could end up saving you tens of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. And when you're working with a client, do you recommend them a specific person to work with as well?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have even known that we got a pest inspection done when we bought our house, but we just Googled someone and found someone. So it's really interesting that you need someone also with,
well, then you've got to decipher the 100 pages that are sent to you, and that sometimes can also have some very, very inflammatory language in them. The bane of my existence is flexi hoses under sinks. They're made from some material that are constantly rusting and it has water going through them all the time. So they always come through on a building inspection as a major problem. It's a $5 hose that needs replacing,
right.
Like it's not a big deal. I have lots of different contacts throughout the country where I can recommend, not only conveyancers and building and pest inspectors, but also property managers and things like that. I've been in the game long enough now to have got a really good collection of people that I work with. I definitely don't take any kickbacks from anyone. I work with people who are going to give my clients the same service that I would expect from myself. And yeah, they are very encompassing sometimes, the reports. And so a part of what I do is get them and tell you to hold fire, wait, don't read it, let me do a summary, and then we'll go through it together. And then if you really want to go and do some light reading and reading the rest of it, then go for it. But really, they're there to show us. I think a lot of times as well, people get a bit confused about what a building and pest report actually is for. And they think, oh, well, there's some paint that's off the skirting board and I want that repainted, or, there's some light fittings that are broken or those sorts of things. And it's not what those are actually for as we go through the process. We're mainly looking for major structural defects or pest infestations which will adversely affect the property, and you don't know until you get this done. Although there will be things that pop up throughout the report, weirdly, we don't need by our insurance ever to do these reports in our properties. So when you think about it, like we get our car done and you get to a certain age in your car and your car has to go and be checked every year and then they insure it, not with a house, right? So the only time we do these reports is when we're buying a house. It is crazy to me. So there will be, and there always is, and I talk people through it all the time, that there will be some things that pop up. But for most part, a lot of those can be looked at as your maintenance list as you move forward, and to make sure that you don't ignore them. If there is a hose from your AC that's too close to the house, fix it. Is that something that's worth not buying the house over? No. But it's good to know. Or there's some rusted gutters or what have you. Again, is it something to not buy a house over? Generally not, but it's good to know. Keep your eye on it, monitor it, those sorts of things. It's a crazy process, and it's insane to me that the insurance companies don't ever have them done. Like, it's just never checked. It's mad.
Absolutely, on such a big asset in your life. I learned so much from that, Jade. And the thing that really struck me that I did not realize is, sharing your pre-approval too early with the agent, because of course then they know what you can spend up to. That's really interesting. So just to come back to that point, because they need to see it at some point, but what do you advise? They don't. Okay. No. Yeah.
The only person that needs to see that is you and your broker, and maybe your buyer's agent.
Yes.
Sometimes I want to see it just to make sure that everything's in place and that we're all good to go. What are the dates? Because generally speaking, the pre-approvals will be in place for about 3 months. And then if we haven't purchased or the client hasn't purchased in that time frame, we need to know that date, and we need to be talking to the broker about whether there's going to be an automatic rollover. Maybe the client's circumstances have changed. They may need to redo their pre-approval. There's a whole bunch of different things there that need to be factored in. But no one ever needs to see your pre-approval other than you and your broker and potentially your buyer's agent. But
wow, that's really an amazing point. So if the real estate agent asks for it, you just say, I've got pre-approval. I'm not sharing it with you.
Yep, I'm good to go. I've got it in place and I'm good to go. Well, what's your budget? Well, what are you selling it for?
Yes. Great.
You've got to ask questions, answer questions with asking questions, basically. Don't give away anything. That's my number one key thing with people is like I see it all the time at open homes, and I want to go up to people and be like, shh, be quiet. You don't walk around and going, oh my God, I love it. This is my dream home. I'm definitely moving in here. No.
So keep it cool.
Keep it cool, guys. Keep it
It's
cool.
all right. It's fine.
It's okay.
Keep that on the inside.
Yeah, but you still want to look as a serious buyer. right? You need to be taken seriously. We're playing in the big kids club and we're spending a lot of money, but we also, want to play cards close to your chest, as they say.
Okay, that's great advice. And I feel like it's particularly good advice for women who sometimes like to be friendly and people pleasing, and it's not in our nature necessarily to do that. So that's great advice.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Jade, we talked about it in terms of that pest and building inspection, and you're looking for major structural issues or pest infestations that are really going to impact the value of a property and cause you a lot of money if you did go through with it. Are there any other things that you should be looking for that would make you walk away from a property immediately?
Yeah, look, and again, this is area specific and can come down to making sure that due diligence checks are done in the background. For instance, let's use Brisbane again as an example. Half of this city goes underwater and you need a snorkel to live in it. And it happens we're going through these crazy days, aren't we? We're a generation where we've gone through a global pandemic. We're in the middle of what looks like our third world war. We have been through the ringer, and from a perspective of climate and what's happening with the world, we're starting to see more than one or two lifetime events happening in our lifetime as well. So
Absolutely.
When you look at places like Brisbane, for instance, the river has flooded 3 times in the last 5 years. It's a lot. Now, that affects things like your insurances. There are still multi-million-dollar properties that living in all of these flooding zones, and some people are happy to wear those and happy to understand and pay that extra insurance. I was looking at one for a client yesterday. The insurance on the property for the year is $47,000. Sorry, that's not for me. Whereas, your average is about 3.5 potentially. So you've really got to look at those sorts of things. In Australia, we also obviously have things like fire zones. Victoria's prone to a couple of those. You've got to just make sure that you're looking at not only the house, but the environmental factors that are surrounding it. What is happening in that area? People get obsessed with things like social housing and stuff like that. Australia is an amazing economy and an amazing community base where, generally speaking, social housing's been dotted in and around most of our suburbs. We don't have full, hardcore, concentrated areas within that socio-economic standpoint. So you've got to be mindful. I've got 2 on my house, and my house is up in the millions in most of my street. So it just is one of those things that you've got to be really, when you're looking, dig and dive into everything. The maps that they have on realestate.com are fantastic, or domain.com, and zoning out and having a look at what your neighbours' yards look like. Like for me, one of my biggest ones, getting back to your question, is hoarders. No, thank you. I don't want anyone with lots of cars in their front yard, lots of rubbish lying around. No, it's just a big no. So I spend a lot of time zoning out, looking down at maps and seeing who's your neighbours. You don't need to walk the streets to see that.
That is absolutely fascinating, and something I would never have thought to have done, to scope out the neighbours' blocks on the maps. That's because
so we'll
that's
do
going to be a huge part of your life. The people you're dealing with them, directly around.
Yeah, and the whole thing is as well. I'll look at people's gardens. I'll look at whether the hedges are trimmed. I'll look at a whole bunch of things that I'm looking for to see who the neighbours are. What's happening in the hood? Wow. Have people put swimming pools in the backyard? Shows gentrification.
I love it. You're getting paid to be professionally nosy, isn't it? It's
oh, totally. I get to go snooping through people's cupboards for a living. It's fantastic.
I love it. I love it. Jade, I've just learned so much from this conversation. I think it's so valuable for people that are starting out, or maybe looking to, buy an investment property. Before we wrap up, I would just love any other words of wisdom for you, for someone that hasn't made the leap yet, but they're thinking about it. And particularly, maybe it is a Ladies Finance Club member who might be doing it by herself. Yeah. What are your final closing thoughts and words of wisdom that we might not have touched on?
Start. Don't be scared. It is a super scary, overwhelming, and everyone thinks that they have all the advice in the world for it. Don't listen to the mums and dads club who'll be like, this and that. Just start. Talk to a broker. Find out where you stand. currently. And if you need to work on getting a deposit together or what have you, then you at least have the plan to get there. The only way that things aren't going to happen is if you don't start. The rest of it can fall into place. You can pay people to help you through the process. You can look at things like Molly's got a million different podcasts and those sorts of things where there's a wealth of information out there. But start. Don't be scared. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. We want to see as many women on the property ladder as possible, and let's make women rich because we rule the world better.
Love it, Jade. Well, that is a perfect note to end this chat on. Let's make women rich. Fantastic.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for your time today, Jade, and all your incredible advice.
More than welcome. Thanks so much.